Hello, my name is Daniela and my pronouns are she, her.
My name's Julianna and my pronouns are she, her.
We're field placement students with For a Safer Space. Today we will be demonstrating the middle session of therapy using the cognitive behavioral therapy, where I will be in the role of the therapist and Julianna the client. We will begin with the land acknowledgement. Toronto is in the dish with one spoon territory. The dish with one spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. The land acknowledgement is just our first step in working towards truth and reconciliation. All skills we demonstrate today will come from the book CBT Made Simple, A Clinician's Guide to Practicing Cognitive Behavioral Therapy by Josefowicz, Mirren, and Segal. We will be using questions and example scripts from the novel, but in particular, we will draw from the example of Suzanne that is presented throughout the book.
As well, we will just go over the CBT definition. So CBT is a psychotherapy modality that is based on evidence in order to understand and treat psychological problems where the client forms goals in the beginning sessions that will be focused on throughout therapy. Therefore, the relationship between thoughts, feelings, physical reactions, and behavior is focused on and understood to see how they perpetuate a client's circumstances. As well, some skills that will be demonstrated during this session are checking in with your client, setting an agenda for the session, identifying behaviors a client wishes to change and using behavioral activation, identifying safety behaviors and using exposure therapy, assigning homework, reviewing the session and asking for feedback, and finally, discussing how to terminate therapy using CBT.
And with that, we can begin the third role play. Hello, it's great to see you again. As usual, we can start with a brief check-in so that you can bring me up to date on anything that has happened in your life since our last session, and we can get a sense of how you're doing. Then we can work on a list together of what we would like to work on today to keep our sessions focused. After we work through the list, we can review just to make sure you're still benefiting from our sessions. How does this sound?
That sounds good. There's a few things I wanted to speak about today.
That's great. How has your week been?
It's honestly been okay. There were obviously some ups and downs, but for the most part, it was pretty okay. I've now noticed myself using some CBT skills whenever I feel anxious or overwhelmed to help me.
It's great to hear you've been using the skills we've been working on. For the last homework, we decided that you would work on the Predict Your Mood chart and work through the couple activities so you could rate your mood before and after. How did this go?
I think it went okay. I was easily able to identify when I was feeling depressed this week.
Okay, and were there any challenges with the homework?
No, none that I can think of.
Okay, and what did the homework teach you?
Well, I've noticed that I don't feel as badly as I've used to, and I've also noticed that most of my predictions for certain situations were not always accurate.
Okay, it's great that you continue to do the homework, and I'm glad you've been so successful with it. If you were to rate your mood over the last week, where would you put it?
I guess it would be somewhere around a 5.
Are there any times when your mood was different or fluctuated?
Mostly throughout the day at school, this was most noticeable.
Okay, and have you thought about anything in particular that you would like to focus on today?
I guess we can just focus on the usual anxiety and shyness with new people, as well as maybe creating some activities that can help me boost my mood.
Okay, that's great that you've been thinking about it. I think it would be helpful in that case if we revisit the homework throughout the session to give us more of a foundation. How does this sound?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay. It sounds like there have been a lot of changes in your life. I'm wondering if we could spend a moment and think about how each change has affected your life. Which one should we look at first?
Well, I guess we can start with the first one, the really big one, which has been the new school.
Okay. I think it would be helpful to look at how your life has changed since starting at the new school then. I want to look at the activities you've stopped doing and the activities you started doing because of the new school.
Okay, I guess one of my biggest changes is in the morning. I used to walk to school and it was about 15 minutes each way. However, I now spend 45 minutes commuting. The extra 30 minutes I used to have meant that I had time to get the kids ready in the morning. Now everything has to be ready the night before. The kids have to be completely ready to be dropped off at my neighbor's home by 7:30. It's really hard getting them up, dressed, and fed. Then my neighbor takes them to school, and my husband leaves early for work, so he can't help me.
That sounds like a really big change in your morning routine.
Yeah, I actually used to enjoy the mornings. It was a nice time with the kids, and I liked the walk to school. Now it's just so stressful.
I want to start making a list of the ways your life has changed. I think it will help us understand your depression and how we can help you. Can I screen share so we can work on the list together?
Sure.
Okay, so do you want to go through your changes and I can list them here?
Sure. So I guess the first one would be no longer having the 15-minute walk to school.
Okay.
No longer have a nice time with my kids in the morning. And I've noticed that now I rarely eat breakfast, so I'm often starving and frazzled by the time I get to school.
I think that's a really good list of all the things that you're no longer doing. What about anything that you do now because of the new school that you were not doing before that I can add here?
Well, I guess that I have to be really organized the night before, which I find pretty hard.
Okay.
I also have to make my daughter's lunch, put out their clothes, and make sure I'm organized for school.
Okay.
I also have to be really strict with them because I'm on a tight schedule.
Okay.
So this means I yell at them more in the morning. I also have the long drive to work, which I hate since I spend the whole time thinking about what a bad mother I've become.
Okay. That sounds like a lot of changes. When we look at how different your morning is now from how it used to be, what are your thoughts?
Well, looking at it, no wonder I'm depressed. It sounds like an awful way to start the morning.
I think you said something important. Seems like the change in school caused a lot of other changes in your life and had a negative effect on your morning routine and mood. I think we're discovering some important information. I want to see if there are other ways that starting the new school has impacted your life.
Okay.
I would like to show you a diagram next. This is the cycle of depression. You can see how the cycle maintains itself. Instead of just looking at the diagram, I would like to work on a chart with you since you find them so helpful. How would you feel about this?
Okay, sounds like a good idea.
Great. This is the Understand Your Depression chart. It will help us understand a bit more about what is causing and maintaining your depression. So I want to start with the top section here that's changes or stressors in your life prior to your depression. Is there anything you'd put up there?
Yeah, the new school.
Okay.
My mother-in-law no longer being able to babysit. And my best friend, Gina, moving away.
Okay. Is there anything else there or can we move to the next section?
No, we can move on.
Okay, so are there any activities that you enjoy or that provide pleasure or mastery that have increased since your life changes and stressors?
No, there's none.
Okay, how about decreased?
The walk to school. A nice time with my children in the morning.
Okay.
Going out with my husband. Seeing my friends. And my Sunday walk with Gina.
Okay. How about activities that you do enjoy? Or you do not enjoy, sorry.
Getting ready the night before work.
Okay.
The long drive to work. And getting up early with my children.
Okay, how about anything that's decreased?
Nothing there.
Okay. How about exercise?
Nothing there as well.
How about decreases in this section?
No walk to school. And no Sunday walk.
Okay, how about spending time with friends?
Nothing there.
Okay. And how about decreases?
I stopped seeing my school friends.
Anything else?
And that Gina moved away.
How about spending time with family?
I am seeing my mother-in-law more because she's become ill.
Okay, and anything decreased?
Yeah, this means less time with my children in the morning. And less time with my husband overall.
Okay, how about leisure or hobbies?
Nothing there.
How about decreases?
No school play.
Okay.
And no other extracurricular activities.
How about smoking, overeating, alcohol, or drug use?
None for both sections.
Okay, that's good. How about routines related to eating and sleeping?
Nothing in increased.
Okay.
But for decreased, I have no breakfast routine. And I often fall asleep in front of the TV.
Okay. Do you want to take a quick minute to look it over and make sure you're good with it?
Yeah, everything seems accurate.
Okay. I now want to revisit a chart you worked on, which was the daily activities chart. Did you see an activity mood relationship when you worked through this? Specifically, which activities helped you feel better and which were connected to a lower mood?
Yeah, I noticed that I do nothing for fun, but when I'm more active, my mood improves. In fact, socializing with people actually helps me feel better, as well as when my husband is home to help me with the kids. I also realized I actually feel pretty good most of the time at school, and this was the biggest surprise for me. However, I noticed that I am very depressed during my drives to and from school, probably because I hate the commute, the new school, and spending the whole time thinking about what a terrible mother I am and how I wish I had never moved schools. Nighttime is also a low for me, especially while watching TV with the kids and in the morning during my new morning routine.
That sounds difficult. So when you think about this, what time periods are you most at risk for a low mood?
I guess mornings are particularly bad, as whenever I wake up, I just lie in bed and think about what a terrible mother I am and that my husband must be fed up with me. I have clear images of him leaving me and me being alone and miserable.
Do you have any routines that help you maintain a positive mood?
No, I don't think so, which is so different from last year when I had a good morning routine, walked to school, and regularly saw my friends. During this time, I also put my kids down to bed at an appropriate time, and my husband and I went to sleep earlier as well, giving us a full 8-hour rest.
Okay. Is there anything you've been avoiding?
No, not really, but I guess that I don't go out with my friends as much anymore because I'm so tired all the time.
Okay. I want to show you an image and we can work through an analogy together. This is a flower and we can fill out the petals with activities that used to bring you happiness. Feeling happy is similar to a bright flower with lots of petals. If you were to do this, what would you put down?
I guess the first one would be playing and spending time with my kids. Going out to the park with my kids and husband. Going out with my friends. Spending time with my husband. And participating in extracurricular activities at school.
Okay. Since coming to therapy, you've said that you no longer enjoy a lot of activities. Which of these have you stopped doing since then, and I can cross them out?
Nearly all of them, honestly. I don't do anything for fun anymore.
Okay. So I will cross them all out so that I can then ask you a following question. Okay, so now that you see this, do you maybe see any connections between your depression and the activities you've stopped doing?
Yeah, it seems like I'm not doing anything for fun anymore, which may contribute. Everything makes more sense now.
Okay, can we maybe continue to develop a mood boosting plan? We've talked about some activities that you could add, such as calling your friend Rita or listening to music in the car, and you filled out the Predict Your Mood worksheet. I can share it now so we can look at it and review this.
Sure, that's a good idea.
It looks like you did a great job of completing the Predict Your Mood worksheet. When you look at your responses, what do you notice?
Well, for one thing, in both cases, my mood went up.
Could you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed listening to music. I chose some really upbeat old songs that I like, and I think it distracted me from my bad morning.
So listening to music was a good idea. What about talking to Rita?
That was also more enjoyable than I expected. We had a really good talk and caught up. She told me she missed me, and all my friends have been asking about me.
I hear Rita missed you and your other friends also miss you. Let's look at the accuracy of your predictions. What did you initially predict?
I predicted that I would not enjoy listening to music and calling Rita very much. I gave both a 3.
And what actually happened?
Well, I actually enjoyed listening to music quite a bit, and I gave it a 5. And I enjoyed talking to Rita way more than I expected. I gave it a 6 to 7. It was great to catch up with her.
Okay, so thinking about this, what does this say about your predictions?
I guess that I was wrong. I enjoyed the activities way more than I thought I would.
Okay, is there anything that you were planning to complete that we discussed that maybe you didn't do?
Yeah, I know we discussed a walk earlier in the other session, but it just didn't happen this week.
Okay, what stood in your way? Was it too difficult or did you think it wouldn't help?
It's not that I didn't think it wouldn't help. I really did enjoy my morning walks before. It's just that I'm too tired before or after school to even think about it.
Okay, and did you have any other thoughts at the time?
Yeah. Also, during these times, I don't have anyone to watch the kids, so I would have to take them on the walk with me, and it wouldn't be as enjoyable or relaxing anymore.
What are some of the ways that you can try to over the next week to go on a walk?
I guess maybe once my husband comes home from work and after dinner, he can clean up and get the kids ready for bed while I go for a quick walk.
Okay, that's great. Maybe we can make a list of a few more activities you can work towards.
Sure.
Okay.
So I guess in terms of activities of daily living, I want to be able to make an effort to eat breakfast.
Okay.
For social contacts, going out to coffee with my friends.
Anything else?
No, we can move on to exercise.
Okay.
For exercise, I also want to try going for walks with my friends.
Okay.
And for pleasurable activities, I would really love to find an enjoyable hobby.
Okay. Does everything in this list seem doable to you?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Over the next few weeks, you can try to add them, and maybe it would be helpful to revert back to the Predict Your Mood chart so you can better understand the relationship between these activities and your mood. What might be helpful since you struggled with going on a walk would be to notice the fresh air, the flowers, and feel the wind. It can keep you mindful of the current moment and make the walk more enjoyable.
Yeah, that could possibly help me since the idea of just walking on the treadmill is dreadful.
Eventually, when therapy does end, it's important to keep up a daily routine, especially considering it when you start to feel overwhelmed or depressed. Something that you can do in the future is look at the activities you're doing, see how your mood is at the time, and see if anything has changed or you're avoiding anything. If you notice changes, make sure to add a few activities to your routine, and this should help put you in a better mood. How does this sound?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll keep this in mind.
That's great. And you can always refer back to any of the charts that we've used, as they can be helpful to organize your thoughts.
Yeah, that too seems helpful to look back on.
Another thing that can be helpful is graded task assignments. Graded task assignments can be helpful to break up something into smaller pieces so that you can do something one step at a time. You struggled a bit with the walk. Do you think you would be up for trying to use this technique?
Yeah, maybe this could be helpful.
Good. What are some of the ways that you can maybe break this up into small steps?
I guess planning out the day so I have time to go for the walk and making sure that my husband comes home on time to be able to clean up after dinner and get the kids ready for bed while I go for the walk.
Planning your day and making sure your husband comes home on time seem like great ideas. Maybe you could even go on a short walk to your mailbox to start and be mindful of what's outside.
Yeah, that seems a bit easier when it's only a short walk.
Great. Another thing we've been talking about is how anxious you feel around the other teachers at work, and generally how hard it's been for you to make friends. I'm wondering if there are things you do to make yourself feel more comfortable when you're with them.
I guess I've been just trying to avoid everyone as much as possible, so it's hard to tell.
Is there anything you do to make yourself feel more comfortable in situations where you do have to interact with the other teachers?
If I really have to interact with them, I try very hard to say something smart or funny. I will often rehearse a comment in my mind before saying it.
Anything else you do to feel comfortable?
Well, I also usually wait until someone asks me a question before speaking. That way, I don't have to talk as much.
It seems that you've identified some of your safety behaviors. Safety behaviors are often used to feel safer in a situation, but they do not decrease any of the danger of the situation. I would like to add these to a list so that we can continue to keep our sessions organized. Would this be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you want to just restate them so I can write them down?
Okay, so the first one would be rehearsing my comments before speaking.
Okay.
And the second one would be, one second. Waiting until someone asks me a question.
Okay, it's great that you can notice these, and these behaviors do help maintain anxiety. But I think I have some techniques we can use to help if you'd like to try them.
Sure, why not?
What is the fear you would like to address?
Speaking to new people.
How is avoiding a problem for you?
This is a problem because I'm unable to make new friends at my new school and fit in.
If you were not avoiding this situation, how would your life be different? Would you be doing differently?
I guess if I weren't avoiding this, I'd be able to have friends to sit and eat lunch with, as well as having someone to talk to during recess and assemblies and participating in extracurricular activities.
Okay, why is it important to you to stop avoiding?
It's important to me so I can get out of this depressive cycle and begin to feel a bit better.
Are there maybe any consequences of avoiding talking to the other teachers?
I guess just feeling alone and miserable.
You've mentioned that you value being friendly and having good relationships with other people. Can you maybe see a connection between the situation you're avoiding and your values?
Yeah, not being able to speak with the new teachers makes me see that I'm disregarding my own values.
Okay, this exposure task that I want to try can definitely help with that and align with your values.
Okay.
We've been talking about how you avoid situations that make you anxious and how avoiding these situations has not helped and has actually caused more difficulties. We've also talked about how being able to do the activity you've been avoiding is related to some very important values for you. I think exposure therapy would be a very helpful treatment for you. Exposure therapy involves facing your fears. We will make a list of the situations that make you anxious, starting with situations that are fairly easy and going up to situations that are hard for you. We will start with the easiest and see if together we can help you learn to cope with the situation. Once you've learned to cope with the easiest situation, we'll progress to more difficult ones. We will work together and go at whatever pace works for you. How does this sound?
Sounds good.
As you face your fears, you will learn not to be afraid. I want to talk a bit about anxiety. You will feel some anxiety as we do these exposure tasks, but that's okay. You need to feel some anxiety for exposure to be effective. We'll go slowly. Also, the more we face what makes us anxious, the less anxious we end up feeling. This means that the more you do the exposure task, the less anxious you will feel and the more you will learn to manage your anxiety.
Okay.
Why don't we start working on a fear hierarchy? I will screen share it with you. What are some situations that you find fairly easy that I can add?
I guess saying hello to other teachers in the hall.
Okay.
Saying hello to teachers on the way to recess. And saying hello to the teacher next to me at an assembly.
Okay, that's good. What about 3 situations you find moderately hard?
The first one would be eating in the lunchroom and sitting down at a table with the other teachers.
Okay, what is another thing that we can add?
Starting a conversation with the teacher next to me at an assembly.
Okay.
And asking for help with a school-related task.
Okay, and what about 3 situations you find very difficult?
Asking another teacher to have lunch with me.
Okay.
Making a comment at a staff meeting.
And the last one?
And volunteering to participate in extracurriculars.
Okay, next we can rate these situations using subjective units of distress. Subjective units of distress will help us to keep track of your anxiety levels, and you can rate them from 0 to 100. 100 is the most anxious you've ever been, and 0 is not anxious at all. Would you like to try these with the situations you've listed?
Sure.
Okay, so for saying hello to the other teachers in the hall.
A 40.
Okay. How about saying hello to teachers on the way to recess?
A 30.
Okay. And saying hello to the teacher next to you at an assembly?
40.
Okay, for the situations you find moderately hard, what would you put down for eating in the lunchroom and sitting down at a table with the other teachers?
Probably a 50.
Okay. Starting a conversation with the teacher next to you at an assembly?
50 as well.
Okay. And asking for help with a school-related task?
This one's a little bit harder, so maybe a 60.
Okay. And for the situations you find very difficult, how would you rate asking another teacher to have lunch with you?
An 80.
Okay, and how about making a comment at a staff meeting?
Also an 80.
And finally, volunteering to participate in extracurriculars?
Probably a 70.
Okay, that's good. I like that we can get a better idea of where we can start so that the situations are not as stressful for you, and hopefully we can eliminate most stress about the exposure. Which task would you like to begin with?
I guess with saying hello to a teacher in the hallway or just talking to them in general throughout the school day.
Okay, when can you do this and how often can you do it?
I can do this every time I see a teacher in the hallway, at an assembly, or at recess. So I guess I can do this several times a day.
I agree that it would be good practice to practice this several times a day. It can really benefit your learning experience. Next, I want to make sure that this is doable for you and eliminate any worries you may have. What is your worst case scenario?
I guess the worst that could happen is that I would be pretty anxious and end up saying hello in a very hesitant and awkward manner, and that my face would turn bright red.
Okay, and what is your worst fear about what will happen, including how other people will react?
I guess just that the other teachers will ignore me and walk past without saying anything.
What is your worst fear about how you will feel, including your worst fear of the symptoms you will have?
I guess just that my anxiety would be pretty high.
Okay, and what is your worst fear about what you will do or how you will behave?
I guess just being awkward and my face turning bright red from embarrassment.
Okay, what do you imagine will happen, and do you actually see this happening?
Yeah, I can very clearly imagine two teachers walking by without saying anything at all and just smirking.
Okay, with all this in mind, do you see any evidence of these predictions not coming true?
Well, I guess only my reactions and behaviors seem true. The rest doesn't seem so accurate now.
Okay, great. Keep in mind that it's very important to keep this practice, even after therapy. Anxiety is not a reason to avoid, and you have demonstrated your ability to use these skills and techniques to help in situations that make you anxious. The more you face your fears, the easier it becomes. Anxiety with exposure is completely normal, and this exposure therapy will help you.
Okay, that makes sense. Hopefully it can help.
As we wrap up the session, I will stop screen sharing.
Okay.
Before we end our session, we'll work on some homework together. Since you plan on completing the exposure, I was thinking that that would be a great task for you to work on. You also mentioned that you wanted to work on going for a walk, and maybe using the graded task assignment will help with this. How does this sound for you?
Yeah, those both sound okay.
Great. For the exposure therapy, it can be helpful to think about what you were worried will happen and what actually did happen. This is something you can keep in mind so that we can debrief it next week.
Okay, sounds good.
Before we wrap up, does this homework seem doable for you?
Yeah.
Do you see any issues that maybe we can discuss?
No, not anything I can think of.
Great. Now I want to make sure that you're still benefiting from our sessions. Was anything particularly helpful for you today?
Yeah, they're still benefiting me, and I really do enjoy coming each week and learning new skills to help me.
I'm glad to hear. Did anything not help?
No, there's nothing I could think of right now.
Okay, that's great. We can work on booking another session.
Sure, there's actually something I wanted to speak to you about before that, though.
Okay.
I've honestly begun thinking about if it was time for me to end therapy. I no longer feel as depressed, and my husband has been helping more at home. Our relationship has begun to improve, and we're actually in a better place than I was before I got depressed. I'm also feeling a bit better about myself and myself as a mother. I'm able to cope better when they're misbehaving or in the mornings. I'm even beginning to not dislike the commute to work so much, and I'm even getting better at making some friends, even if it's just small talk. The only thing I'm worried about is not being able to cope without therapy, and this seems really scary to think about.
I think it's great that you're beginning to think about it, especially since that means we've met most of your goals we initially set out for therapy, and you're optimistic that we will complete these goals soon. When we do end therapy, I'll make sure you're set, and we can schedule a date to meet a few weeks later to debrief those few weeks and see how you're doing and managing. During the session, we will go over how your life has changed and the things you've learned in therapy. And even when we do terminate therapy, you're always welcome back for a booster session or to discuss how you're doing.
Okay, I think this is a great idea. I look forward to seeing how it goes.
Sounds good. We'll book a session for next week, and we can go over how your mood boosting activities and exposure went.
Great, I'll see you then.
And with that, we have concluded the role play of one of the middle sessions of therapy using the psychotherapy modality, cognitive behavioral therapy. The skills demonstrated in example questions used today are reflective of the novel CBT Made Simple by Josefowitz, Mirren, and Segal. To review, we have demonstrated the skills checking in on your client, which includes asking about new developments in a client's life, rating their overall mood since the last session, bridging to the last session, reviewing homework and identifying any new problems, setting an agenda for the session and ensuring you stick to the agenda, but always remaining flexible given your client's needs, identifying any behaviors a client wishes to change and using behavioral activation, identifying safety behaviors and using exposure therapy, assigning homework, reviewing the session and asking for feedback, and finally, we discussed some tips on terminating therapy with a client using CBT. Thank you for watching.